Hi, I'm Debbie Harbeck, and I'm a certified life coach working with women in midlife and through the menopause transition. So each week, I'll be sharing the latest information, inspiration, and generate some momentum so you can move forward and feel more in control of your changing midlife body and your life. Let's go. Hi, and welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited you're here today because today I'm talking about protein because carbs are so yesterday. But seriously, I think we've spent enough time as women worrying about what we shouldn't be eating. So today I'm talking about something we should be eating, probably more than you're eating right now, because most women in midlife aren't eating enough protein. Now, I don't want you now to get obsessed with protein and then have your anxiety and stress all the way up because you don't know if you're getting enough. That's not my intention here. What you need to know, first of all, is that all natural foods, meaning fruit, veggies, nuts, seeds, legumes, grains, and all animal products all have protein because protein is the building block of life on the planet we live on, Earth. So even if you don't know how much you're getting, you know that you're getting some protein in mostly everything you're eating. Now, if you want to track your protein at least temporarily so you can get a feel for how much you're getting, you first need to know how much you need, right? So what do women in midlife need in terms of protein? So there is a calculation. Basically, we should be getting between 0.54 grams and 0.9 grams of protein for every pound of body weight per day. Now, if you weigh yourself in kilos, then you need 1.2 grams to 2 grams of protein for every kilogram of body weight. And that's daily, of course. So for example, if you're 150 pounds, which is about 68 kilos, you need between 81 grams and 135 grams of protein every day. Now that's a pretty big range between 81 and 135. And that's supposed to be based on your daily activity. So if you're less active, you need less. But if you're in doubt, even if you're not, I would say aim for the higher number. So if we break this down into 3 meals a day, you likely need at least 30 grams at each meal, with snacks as an added bonus. So one serving of meat, which should be about the size and thickness of your palm, will usually be enough protein for a meal. But of course, with a salad and cooked grains like rice or quinoa, you'll boost that number without ever really trying. Now, if you're vegetarian or vegan, you'll want to build meals around eggs and dairy if you're vegetarian, as well as legumes and chickpeas and lentils and cooked grains like rice or steel-cut oats. And you can always add protein powder, unsweetened, of course, is what I suggest, to proteinate, I don't know if that's a word, but to improve the protein of your morning smoothie or your homemade protein bars, for example. I've created for you a simple infographic that gives you a list. An infographic is just a big PDF that gives you a list, which of course isn't an exhaustive list, but it lists many protein-rich foods and how much protein they actually offer you. So you can download that infographic for free by going to the show notes of this episode wherever you're listening. So on Spotify or Apple, you can go into the show notes. There's a link in there that you can click on so you can download it. So now that I've told you all this, I think it's important you know why you need more protein in midlife, right? And the basic reason is because you're losing muscle as you age. We are all losing muscle. And as we go through perimenopause, we lose it at a faster rate than at any other time in our lives. So you've got to make sure you're getting enough protein to build muscle and to maintain muscle. On the other side of things, of course, you have to make sure you're doing exercise that builds muscle because that is also equally important. But here we're talking about eating protein. So yes, we need to increase our protein to help increase our muscle mass. And an increase in muscle, of course, also translates into an increase in bone density and strength, which we already know, right? So many women find out at this time of life that they've got porous or brittle bones. And that's usually diagnosed as either osteopenia or osteoporosis. I've talked about it on the podcast before. There are earlier episodes that talk about that. And if we consider we're increasing our muscle, that also translates into an increase in metabolism, which means you burn more calories for the same amount of food. That's great news, especially if you're trying to lose any weight. Another advantage in eating more protein is that it keeps you satisfied for longer than eating things like especially processed carbs. So more protein helps prevent overeating. Another great thing. Protein also doesn't cause your insulin to spike. So it keeps your hormones more stable, meaning you'll possibly have less hot flashes, less night sweats, and maybe less heart palpitations, which would also be wonderful for those of you who are experiencing those symptoms. And if you like to have nice skin, and I think we all do, or good hair and nails, protein helps keep them all healthy and attractive. And finally, at least for this list that I'm giving you now, because there are so many advantages of protein, but for this list, I want to say that protein supports a healthy brain. So neurotransmitters, which are the little communicators in our brain, they're made up of amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. So basically, more protein means an increase in brain activity and your cognitive ability. So if I was to extrapolate that, I would say if you're experiencing brain fog or memory loss in this time of life, maybe protein can help you. Why not? So of course, so many reasons to get enough protein. But again, I want to make sure that you're not going to now go away from this podcast and stress out about getting enough protein. That would be counterproductive for you to do. Now, remember, pretty much everything you eat has some protein. You are getting protein. So start by just adding a little more to one meal, perhaps. Maybe sprinkle some nuts or seeds on cereal, or mix in some Greek yogurt or some soft tofu into your cereal. You can add an egg on top of a rice dish. This is something I love to do, is to have a sunny side up egg on top of my rice dish. Or you can replace rice with quinoa, which is more protein rich. Or you can put lentils, for example, in a soup or a stew. There are so many ways to boost your protein, but just start with one meal at a time. Start with one place in your diet at a time. I love the idea of adding rather than subtracting when it comes to food, because like me, like most women, you have been exposed to diets and eating plans that focus on what you can't eat or what you have to restrict or cut out. But with protein, it's about adding something, which is so amazing. And that may mean you naturally cut down somewhere else, but that's not the focus. And that's where the difference is. A big piece of making changes like this is your mindset. So letting go of that old diet mentality, which focuses on what you can't have and how many calories you have to restrict, you can start now embracing a new mentality, which is about increased strength and health. It's a more positive focus, which actually decreases your anxiety as long as you don't obsess over the protein, and it increases the chances that your body will respond by letting go of what it doesn't need. So like extra fat, for example. And you can get the protein you need as a vegetarian or vegan even. You just have to be mindful of keeping your diet varied. So you're eating lots of different kinds of foods and keep it rich in calories. Yes, I said that. It actually needs to be rich in calories as well, as long as it's good calories, which protein is. I used to be a vegetarian. I know it's possible to get enough protein without meat or animal products. And in recent years, I've added fish and seafood, and I do have meat on occasion. That's just a personal choice. I don't put a label on myself anymore. I don't say I'm vegetarian anymore. I don't even like to say I'm pescatarian. I just am more plant-based than maybe the average meat consumer. I just want you to know that no matter where you are, whether you eat meat or not, whether you consume dairy or not, or whatever label you've given yourself, you can get enough protein. And that getting enough protein doesn't have to be complicated or stressful. As I mentioned in the beginning, just go into the show notes, download my free infographic, which is a PDF, and it'll summarize almost everything I've said here today. And it can serve as a really good guide for your protein needs in midlife. So go ahead and do that. And with that, I just want to tell you how grateful I am that you're listening to this podcast. I hope you're getting something positive out of it. And please pass it on to others who you think could benefit. And in order to get this information out there to even more women, I really need you to rate it on Apple or Spotify with more positive reviews so that the internet can allow more people to listen to it. Thanks so much again, and I'll be back next week with a fresh new episode with a guest, so keep moving forward and bye for now. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Midlife Momentum Podcast. If you want to learn more about working with me, come visit me at DebbieHarbeckCoaching.com. That's Debbie, I-E, Harbeck with a C, coaching.com. See you next week.